Good Sunday morning, Vanessa from Apple Patch. I'm in my Sunday best. Right, we're up to block number 11 and block number 12. Would you believe it? Okay, block number 11. I've called Daisy Daisy because it looks like a daisy to me anyway. And here's my Daisy Daisy block. It's a cute little block. Now this week you're going to be introduced to quarter square triangles. Quarter square triangles are triangles that are half a half square triangle, but importantly, when we cut them out of, now let me see if I can get this up to the screen, out of a square, the same we do a half square triangle, but instead of cutting only once in the diagonal like we do for a half square triangle, we cut it twice on the diagonal. This means that the one long edge is on straight of graying and the two short edges are on the bias. Whereas when we cut for a half square triangle, the two short sides are on straight of graying and the long side is on the bias. So our quarter square triangles go in these two locations here. And the straight of graying, which is the long side, ends up being either horizontal or vertical. So all around the unit, we have straight of graying, and that's really important. Helps to stabilize your block. Now, in previous weeks, we have been stitching, or you've had the opportunity to oversize your units, making half square triangles, sew them together, and then trim them off. This week, you're going to be cutting to the accurate size. So when you get your instructions and it gives you the dimensions for your squares, you'll note in the instructions there's no option to upsize. So you're cutting the exact size, which means you do have to be focused on sewing a nice scant 1/4 inch seam. So not a little oversized 1/4 inch. It needs to be a nice even scant 1/4 inch. The other thing to be aware of this week, the block that you're making, so this is the block here, the Daisy Daisy, the quarter square triangle units, all go in one direction. So they're all to the left or the right, whichever way it wants to swirl around, the left or the right of the green one here. They're all in the same location. You will, in future blocks, be making blocks like pinwheel blocks, where we actually put two units together, draw a line across, sew either side, and then cut them apart, and we end up with pinwheels. But in this case, we actually want units, and pinwheels end up with the fabrics on the opposite sides. Whereas we need units that are the quarter square triangle section of them is all the same. So for instance here, the pink is all on the same side. So if we were to sew a half square triangle unit together and draw a line across it and place a piece of fabric on the back of it and sew either side of that line, we would end up with 2 units that look like this. So this is why you can't use this method, because just get them up the right way. There we go. Now they're up the right way. Can you see these 2 pieces, or the 2 pinks, they're on opposite sides. Okay, so that's why we cannot use the similar method we've been using in the last couple of weeks, where you join together pieces with a line, sew either side, and flip them open, because we don't end up with units that have, for instance, the pink on the same side. Now, you can try it yourself at home, or you can just kind of take my word for it that this method just won't work. Hopefully I haven't confused anyone there. So this week, the important thing to remember is you're going to be cutting squares to the accurate size. So instead of, if you've been rounding up to 4 inches, you're actually going to cut the square at 3 7/8. And when you make your quarter square triangle units, you're actually going to be cutting them, the squares, at 4 1/4, and then cutting it diagonally. So you have to be really careful how you cut diagonally. So I'm just going to show you quickly how to do that. Now I'm just going to bend the camera down, hopefully not make anyone ill. So you're going to be cutting, to make quarter square triangles, 2 squares that, oops, I need a new blade. 2 squares that are 4 1/4 inches. So I've got my 2 fabrics. So you're cutting 1 square from each fabric. And now I'm going to cut this twice diagonally. Okay, so on my ruler, I have got there's a 45-degree line that runs up there. I'm going to put that 45-degree line on the edge of my square, and then I can double check that I'm cutting down through accurately through both corners. Okay, so that's one cut. Now I still need to do another cut across there. So you've got a couple of options. If you've got a smaller cutting mat, just rotate your cutting mat around so that the cut is actually facing you. If you've got a really large cutting mat, like the one I'm working on, you can rotate it round, but just make sure that cut stays buttered right up together. And again, I'm going to line up my 45-degree line down one side, and I'm also double checking that my lines horizontally on my ruler should be on my seam line. Now I'm just going to lift the camera up, hopefully. Oops, sorry, I just gave a wobble there. I can see that that is also matching my horizontal line. And there I've got 4 quarter square triangle units. If you cut your 2 layers together, right sides together, these are now ready to take directly to the sewing machine. The thing to be aware of, and I did make note of it in the instructions, is before you sew them, you want to rotate them all round, and please use pins. Rotate them all round so they're all facing the same direction. So you sew down the same side on all of them, so that when they open, they all open the same way, so that one fabric's always on the right hand side. Now, for this block, it doesn't matter whether whether it looks like it's rotating clockwise or anti-clockwise, either way is fine, as long as these are all on the same side. Okay, so that is your Daisy Daisy block. The other block you're going to be making is a marriage between a rail fence block and your Daisy Daisy block. So I'm just going to lay this one out. So you're going to be making 4 units that are strip rectangle sewn together, same as you did for the rail fence and the double 9 patch. And then you're also going to be making 4 more of these quarter square triangle units. And this block, when it's laid out, looks like arrows going around. Oops. Now again, you can have your arrows rotating clockwise or anti-clockwise, doesn't really matter. And that is the block. Let me just lift the camera up. Oh, tilt it. Okay. There we go. So that's how that block is going to look. So it looks like arrows rotating round. Pretty cool block. So as I say, this one is a marriage between a rail fence and a Daisy Daisy. So hopefully that is all clear as mud. Instructions will be emailed very shortly once this video uploads. Okay then, bye.